Hello, Andre. This is Jack Crane with my assignment one submission for Game 370 or graphics. I'll just get right into it. I'm going to start with the question two because question one was relatively easy compared to this one, and I can just explain it after. So here's the shape. As you can see, it's there. Um, so for this one, we had the constant value of 12 vertices with the variable numVerts, which you gave us. So for my vertex buffer, I set up the vector array called vertices with that takes the numVerts for the amount, which is 12, and then I have a function called build inside polygon, which takes in the number of vertices in the vertice array. Um, and then I multiply, for the byte width, I multiply by number of vertices, and I believe that was it for the changes up here. I'll go into that function in a second. I'm just going to get through the indice buffer as well. So for the indice buffer, because this had to be automated as well, I created constant ratio, which is equal to number of verts minus 2, which is 10, times 3 is 30. There were 10 triangles, so number of verts minus 2 is 10, and then times 3 is 30, which represents 3 vertices for each triangle, which is exactly what we want in the array. So I have a word array of, I have an array of word objects that takes in up to the ratio size, and then I have a function called build triangle indices, which takes in the ratio and the indice array, and I multiply the size of word times the ratio instead. So I'll go into these functions now. So for the build unsided polygon, I have two floats and a radius. I have two angle floats and a radius float. I set the radius to 0.5f and the angle to pi divided by number of sides. And then inside the for loop, I just set angle to angle 2 times the index times 2 and set the vertices accordingly based on the multiplication, and that loops until it runs out of sides. So for the build triangle indices, I set up a count and a temp, and then it just does a simple for loop that updates based on the pattern, which is 0, 1, 2, and then 0, 2, 3. So if the count is less than 3, then you just keep incrementing normally. Otherwise, as soon as the count hits 3, that indice equals 0, the count goes back to 0, and you subtract from temp because we're updating each indice based on temp, and then since it increments at the end, when it hits 3, we need to decrement in order to set temp back to the correct value, and then I just update the count at the end. And I believe that's it. Oh, I just have this for the draw index, which is 3 indices for each triangle. There's 10 triangles, so you want 30, 12 minus 2. It's the same calculation as above. For your questions, what are the sorry, one second. I have this on my phone. So for the first question, it's what's happening to the triangle is the vectors are getting culled. The clipping and rasterizing occur towards the end of the pipeline, and the IA and VS stages draw the whole shape. But the clipping and RS stages apply the camera to the NDC, and since the NDC for the Z-axis is 0 through 1, 2 is out of range, meaning it gets clipped, and backface called, which causes the trapezoid shape when you input 2 for the Z value. For the second question, experimenting for the different values at top left, it would be useful to render something else in a full window because you can mimic resolutions, the resolutions of other devices, as well as it'd be useful to render because sometimes the value might be out of range and you won't be able to see the object you're working on. For the last question, I wasn't quite sure what the channels were and why the channels mattered for each respective format, but I was able to figure out that unorm means unsigned normalized int, and uint just means unsigned int, and sint means signed int. The formats in playing language are for the uint format, it's a 4-component 32-bit unsigned integer that supports 8 bits per channel, including alpha. And for the R16 uint, it's a single component 16-bit unsigned integer format that supports 16 bits for the red channel. And I think I'm going over my time, so I'll end it there.